The aforementioned Charlie Gasparino is there. I did want to also let you know a statistic I was trying to remember with the last guest. In 1994, going into the midterm elections, Republicans were expected to gain about 20 to 25 seats, which would have been the historical norm. In the end, they gained 54 seats, took control. The Gingrich revolution was on. Bill Clinton was thought to be in trouble. He endorsed a lot of the changes in the era of big government being over. But the message from that was it broke late. It broke literally just days before the midterm election. So anything can and usually will happen either way. But history shows that's pretty common. Isn't that remarkable?
Yeah, and I mean, these are a bunch of small districts. To think about it.
You're right.
And we're talking about
many within 5 or fewer points.
And you never know what can change people. Are suburban housewives? Is the disdain of I mean, the conventional wisdom is this is going to come down to what suburban housewives think of Donald Trump, or what they think of the mob rule of the Democratic Party. Are they more turned off by the specter of the far left with the incessant protests and, the stuff what happened with Kavanaugh, where he was guilty, he basically destroyed the guy's life.
You think that will dominate the theme here?
That does that outweigh their disdain for Donald Trump's really coarse?
Do you worry about the consent? I mean, talk to every analyst and, political read. I mean, they take the House, they take the House, they take the House. And I don't know about that.
I thought they would easy and, take the Senate, maybe take the Senate as well until Kavanaugh. I mean, that was such a spectacle. The visage of Pat Leahy holding some dude's yearbook, high school yearbook.
Right.
I mean, that was so absurd. And I think, that caused a lot of people that were on the fence about Republicans and wanted to check on Trump to say, whoa, the check on Trump is these lunatics that are, parsing this guy's words in his high school yearbook. So
you think that's going to drive him? Because there's the thought that there's going to be much higher participation for a midterm on both sides.
Listen,
Republicans
there's no doubt that energized the Republican base.
Right.
And, and caused people, I think, if you look at the polls, it caused people to rethink, whether we're going with the Dems.
How much of this is weighing on the markets, particularly today? What's going on?
I don't think any of it. I don't think the markets are really focused on this. I mean, when I talk to investors, they're myopically focused on
I like
three or four
big words. It confirms how smart you are.
Yes, but 3 or 4 issues. I learned that at Pace University.
Absolutely.
Trade is one of them. Right? Do we have a trade war? Are the tariffs starting to impact corporate earnings? They are. If you look at GM and Ford and some of the automobile manufacturers, which are taking it on the chin because of higher tariffs. Corporate earnings, are they going to be as strong as they were in the past? Are they going to continue to be strong throughout the rest of the year into next year? A lot of people talking about a slowdown in corporate earnings. And I think the one other thing that I think is weighing on investors' mind when I talk to them are the tax cuts. The massive corporate tax cut going to provide enough bang for the buck in terms of GDP? Or are companies just merely going to buy back their stock and not invest in plant and equipment? So you don't get more. You basically don't get the push that you would have gotten from a bigger individual tax cut, more consumption spending, thus higher GDP. So those are the things I think people are worried about. And it's also, and we're all over the place in terms of where that's going.
Right.
And markets react fast to that. The worry, a couple of weeks ago, last week, it feels like a couple of weeks ago, we basically corrected about 1,000 points in a blink. Remember? Yeah. And because the markets digest this stuff so fast, given the algorithms and the computers.
Triple-digit swings are so common now.
Because it's digesting information constantly. The one thing I think you got to look at is long-term. How have the markets performed since Donald Trump began talking about trade as a real issue? And they have not performed well. I mean, basically flatlined. And I think that sort of, if you think about it, the trade war worry overwhelmed or at least counteracted or balanced the positive you got from his tax cuts.
And you do have to wonder, China was soaring today. So if they're worried about a trade problem, it had a funny way of showing it.
Yeah, well, you don't know. One day.
We don't know.
I mean, we don't know. But I think those are the two things.
Real quickly, Elon Musk and this new tunnel, what the heck's going on there?
I don't know.
Okay, good.
I mean, a tunnel.
Yeah.
This guy is worried about a tunnel. You see, this is what scares me about Tesla.
He has money to burn.
I know he's a smart guy. Nah, he actually doesn't. And here's the thing. Well, suppose that company is not worth $50 billion, its market cap. The investors say, well, based on the production, it's only worth $10 billion. Well, then his net worth goes down dramatically because he owns a bit. It's part
But
of
this
it.
technology is kind of cool, right?
Yeah, but Neil, if you got a CEO that's like spread all over the place, and he's not doing what he has to do is to make that place profitable, make sure they churn out enough of their Model 3, that's the latest version, and he's worried about a tunnel, it makes me wonder about the stock. I mean, don't you want your CEO to be worried about the product at hand?
No, I think the tunnel thing is cool.
The tunnel.
Better his money.
How about the spaceship thing that he's doing?
Yeah, I'd like to put you on one right now. All right.